Now we are getting to the meat of it. In Module 2, we will talk about your systems, processes, and work streams. ICOR is all about understanding the fundamentals of your productivity system. And there you have it already, system. And this is the tool-agnostic approach. Once you understand how everything is connected, how the flow of information is, and this is the name of Module 2, information flow, then you will easily understand where to place the right tools with the right features in order to make this work in the best and efficient way possible. System versus process versus work stream. I will make it very easy in this module to understand the differences and how you can lay out your own existing systems. As I said in Module 1, you already have a system in place because you're getting work done. You're working every day on something, right? So now it's about to structure all this and get it into order. So to make the information flow easily without bottlenecks, we need to identify the places it is flowing through. And in the very end, I will give you 2 examples that will be an eye-opener, I promise. So if you say, but I'm too busy to build these systems, you signed up for ICOR Mastery and you committed already that you want to put the time into this. So here's the saying from Brian Locke: if you're busy to build good systems, then you'll always be too busy. So take away the time to lay out these systems. And trust me, once you have the skill set, and I just show you how you can lay out your processes, then you will lay out your process in no time. I'm pretty sure you will do this in less than 1 hour to create your main work stream. But before we go to this, let's just make the definition of the different terms that I use here. System, process, and work stream. Okay, let's dive into this now. So we have information, and this is what we talk about input. We want to realize what different types of information we have. This is what we will talk about in Module 3, but now also how the information flows through our business systems, through our personal lives, how everything is connected. And then we get this bird's eye view that is so important to understand how we can improve things, how we can optimize things. So information flows into our knowledge system, knowledge base. We are feeding our knowledge base with new information. And it's important that you visualize information, the flood of information that we get on a daily basis, in a funnel. We need to funnel it down. We need to filter out information that we really need to store before we put it into the knowledge management system. Otherwise, we create noise. More about this in Module 3. And then we will leverage this knowledge base to get work done, because knowledge, this will be our single source of truth, or different single source of truth containing different information. But this is the place where we can leverage our knowledge to get work done in a highly efficient way. And then we have a feedback loop. So we can have new outcomes, lessons learned, how it worked. All this is new information that we generate during our work. And we should keep this in mind. We should store this again somewhere. So this means we are generating new information that we then should feed into the knowledge base again. So we have a closed loop here. And this is actually the refined part. The feedback loop would be the refined part of ICOR. This is what I call an information flow. Unfortunately, this is how it looks for most people. Me included, when I was working corporate, this was the style of work we've done. You get the task, you have to do the work, and the first thing you do is seeking for information. Company of the project management tool, Asana, they made studies and they showed that 60% of the workday, people are looking for information, trying to find emails where information was stored, Word documents, things like this in order to get stuff done. And this is really the wrong way around. There was no knowledge base. It was consistently looking up the information. It was temporarily available for the project, and then it was gone after the project was finished. The next project started and people started to seeking for the same information again. New people came in. They had to look up this information again, and this adds a lot of friction to even get the project off the ground. And this usually also leads to the delay of the timelines laid out. Because when people plan out projects, they expect everything works this, implementing this takes that long, but they don't take into consideration how long it takes to gain information, to collect the information, also including getting quotes from the vendors when they need to buy something. All this actually collecting information And you could have this in a knowledge base where you have experiences from certain vendors that the quotes are around this and it takes that long until you get the quote. This is information that you could collect as lessons learned and that you can leverage in the next project to become better in the next project when you're going through. So I just mentioned that the feedback loop is the refine part, but it's just a minor thing. Here you see now the refine symbol, because refine in ICOR stands for workflow optimization and workflow automation. And I made on purpose refine outside the box of information flow, because I just want to make clear again, don't look for automating stuff in the very beginning when you're setting up your system, when you're realizing how your system actually looks like. Make this once the system is running and you start to realize things, you have a point of friction where you always have to collect information or do manual stuff on a recurring basis. Then we look into refine. Right now, everything is done manually. So this is much easier to identify bottlenecks and then say, okay, we pick up this bottleneck and let's do a refine part. But more about this in the module where we talk about refine. So let's start with a very simple workflow work stream. All of us, we get emails on a daily basis, and we know this. We get newsletter emails, we get some information emails that we want to store somewhere, but we also get actionable emails. So let's say we are getting an email that we need to make a task out of this. We need to put in more work than an hour, let's say, to collect information, to get something done, and then to answer to this email. So there should be already a process in order to process this email in the right way possible. So we could say we store this email in a folder inside our email program, or we tag it with something, or we flag it, or things like this. But we could also say we want to create a task inside Todoist, for example. That's just an example. You can put tick, you can put things tree, whatever you like. I just take Todoist in this case. And then we have our system. This is what we use. We're getting emails and we create tasks inside Todoist. And that's just a simple system. And inside this system, once we move the email to the task manager to make a task, this is the process. Moving the email into the task manager, setting it up, prioritizing it, and then the task itself needs to be processed again because there are several steps involved until we can send back an email. So here, to give you an example, we will lay out an easy production workflow of a physical product, right? So you get a customer request via email, then you send out a quote via email, then you do the production in your facilities, and then you deliver the product. This is an easy layout of a process that many companies do on a daily basis. So all these steps in between are processes. We get a customer request, so we process the customer request in order to create a quote out of this. Then we send it back, which is also a process. Then they accept the quote. Then we go to production, which is a process, and then we deliver it, which is a process. So all these are processes. But the whole thing is a work stream. Okay, so within the work stream, we have processes. And when we see it this way, that we have the customer request, quote, production, delivery, we have this work stream, we could lay it out in a different way. So it's easier to understand, to connect it with the tools that we actually use. So we could say we get a customer request and is moved forward and created a task inside our Todoist. And in this task, we have subtasks with the different steps of our work stream, creating a quote, production, delivery. So this is our work stream within our tool. Now that we have a task inside our Todoist and we have the subtask inside Todoist, this is now our system. Still, we are in our system. The system is defined by the tools that we have, the processes that we have inside the system, and the work stream. So what this means, that this part at front, the customer request, triggers the work stream. So we have a defined work stream already in place. Of course, if we ever thought about our work streams in our company or our business or our private life, but once we define this work stream, it's easy to find something that triggers this work stream and then to create this work stream easily. And then we can create templates with one click, everything is already prepared, and so on. So now we can replace the task and subtasks with project and tasks. This is no difference. So the trigger is the customer request, and this triggers the work stream inside a project. So the customer request creates a new project. This project has these different steps in there. So you can easily jump into this, creating the production, creating the quote. Everybody knows what to do as soon as a customer request comes in. And then looking at Todoist, this might not work for all the companies. This is more a personal task manager. So you can replace it with Notion. You can replace it with ClickUp, for example. And talking about ClickUp, I want to show you an example now, how this would look in ClickUp. So here, this is a fresh installation of ClickUp, and I have nothing customized there yet. So with our picture in mind of the work stream, let's just create the trigger. So whenever we get a customer request, we would just manually create a task, and we can just name the task by the customer, for example, for now. So let's say Tom Solid is just ordering something from your company. That's that. So we could already, when we remember the first easy step, get a request, we create a task so we don't forget it. We will work on this and we finish it. That's already it. But now we can create subtasks. So as we said, there would be a quote that we need to generate, and then there would be the production process that we need to do, and then there's the delivery. Okay? And now already we have the work stream within this task. And what we then can do, we see here the assignees. So I can assign myself to whatever I do. Maybe I just do only the quote, right? And the production does one of my team members. In this case, they will be surprised when they will be notified that they have to do production and delivery now. But just for the sake of demonstration, this is what we do now. And then we could add due dates. When needs the quote go out? When the production needs to be done? What's the priority? We come to priorities later in ICOR, in a later modules, when we define what priority actually means, what due dates actually mean, and so on. But this should just give you an understanding. As soon as you get a customer request, you shouldn't be thinking about what to do next. So what we see here, looking in the refine part in ICOR, we could now automate this. So whenever a new customer is created, we could go to automation and we could set up an automation. I show you this in the refine part then. So this would trigger whenever there's a new line added, all these sub-steps will be added automatically and everybody will be assigned. And everything is already in place, ready to start. Everybody knows where to go to. So now we said people send customer requests via email. Again, a little trick up front before the refine module I want to show you here already. You could create a form in ClickUp. You can do this with Asana. You can do this with Airtable, with so many other tools. It's always the same thing. Monday.com, it's also possible. So you can use the form and you would just create a form where you just simply ask the people for the name. You could then ask for further details, what they're actually looking for, what they want to build. You can have a drop-down menu and so on. We can go wide there, but now to keep it simple, we will create a simple form asking for a name. So this is how it would look like on the front end for your customer. Okay, so they have this sign-up form. They say, okay, I want to order something. And I say just Tom Solid 2 so we can differentiate it from the other task. And I submit. And they don't send you an email or anything. This could be placed on your website where they can directly order something from you. So you go back and then you would see in your list, oh, Tom Solid 2 just handed in a request, and you could trigger automations this way. As I said, you could now automatically add all these subtasks and so on. So you can go wide. I just want to show you it's very easy. Once you understand the simple underlying process, you can then optimize how you process these work streams most effective way possible. Now let's go back to the presentation. Now we talked about systems, the work streams, and the processes. Process is doing it, but then we have the how, the procedure. So we need to define how a process is carried out. Might you already heard of? It's standard operating procedures. This is something also that we will talk in other modules in more detail. But for now, this is all you need to understand. You have a system, you have a work stream, you have a process, and you have a procedure, and it's together in one. And when you understand this and you have one work stream at your business, obviously there are different work streams in your businesses. There's sales, there's operations, things like this. Then it starts to look like this. You have a system with different work streams that contain different processes with different procedures. And then we could even go wilder and say we have a system with different subsystems that contain different work streams, that contain different processes, that contain different procedures. By understanding this, we suddenly realize how a company, when it comes to ICOR, should be built up. We have a company and we have the different departments, which are actually the systems. And they operate by different work streams, different processes, different procedures. By realizing this structure, you can then say how they interact with each other. It's much easier to define then than what system works with what system. So what department talks to what department? So sales, for example, talks to production and human resources. Do we have the resources? How much production line? So they can create a quote and so on. And then we can go even in more detail and connect the different work streams that are connected until we finish a specific project. And I think this all looks pretty complex. I want to get back to the basics and make it easy to you. And I want to give you 2 great examples that will make you instantly actionable in your own systems, in your own business, to lay out your own work streams and processes. This is actually picked from real cases with one-on-one coachings with my clients. Here we have a work stream with physical products. So it's always interesting in these one-on-one coachings, the first time we meet, it always starts with tools. I'm overwhelmed. I want to understand what tool should I pick so I'm less overwhelmed. I get more things done. And this is where ICOR is really important. Especially when you do one-on-one with me, it is important that you go through the ICOR Mastery course first so we can talk from a complete different perspective. Because this is a very good use case. Here again, this person was overwhelmed with the work and the information is scattered all over the place and he wants to find a single source of truth and the tools to pick how to do this. And we don't know where to start with. This is the moment when I always start with the basics. So I asked this person, tell me, what is the typical work stream in your company that brings money to the table? Okay, so explain me. And he says they get a customer request and then they have an assessment phase, a feasibility phase, where they say, okay, is this something that we can actually build in our company? Can we create this? Once they have this, then they create a quote and send it out to the customer. Once this quote is accepted, they go into the planning phase, how to produce it, and they go more detailed. They invest the time then. And then they buy the materials needed for the production and produce the products and then they ship it. Good. And then this person, he is actually the owner of this company and he said to me, the company is doing very well. They are growing, the team is growing and they're getting more and more requests. So I asked him, okay, now that we talked about all the different steps in this main work stream, where are you actually involved? What parts are you involved in? And he told me this. The black icon that you see here, this is actually the CEO of the company involved in the different steps. So he's involved in a customer request acceptance, then he does the assessment feasibility phase. When you see this icon, he is his team involved. And then the quote is he usually doing it. Then he works with the team together to plan it out. And then he buys the materials. And then the production is done by his team members, not himself. Also, he comes in for quality assurance and so on. And then the shipping is also organized by him. And I said, okay, that's interesting. So how many customers do you actually serve in parallel? That was the next important questions that I had. And he said 7. And this is why he validated that they're doing very well. They have already 7 customers. And I said, okay, we laid it out exactly the way you see it here. We laid it out this way. And then I just duplicated it 7 times. And then said, okay, this is how it looks right now in your company. And you see all the different spots where you are working it. That's interesting. And you say it's going well. So let's assume you just double the size of the customers. So look what happens. This is how it looks after you have 14 customers instead of 7. So you're running out of days in a week where you can actually work on this. And this was an eye-opener for my client there. And I hope this is an eye-opener for many out here as well. If so, let me know in the community, because I think this is so important that we get all to this point, that we realize where we are involved in. And now we talked about a company owner, but it could be also you in a team working where you have to do this and you do this for a different department and you help out this guy and you help out this guy in one work stream. So it's the same process. You lay out the work stream for yourself, what you do in your team, and then you put yourself onto the different steps. And then you think, is this really me doing this, or should this be done by a different department? And how much time is actually involved? Obviously, not each step takes equal amount of time. So this would be the next layer that we add to this work stream to figure out how time consuming this is. And then once you realize all this, you can go back here and say, these are the different functions. These are different departments. This place where this person was involved in could be complete different departments. Even if it is just one person right now, it should be defined as a function, as a department, not as a person you're hiring and taking over the first 3 steps or something. You should really focus on single different steps. So there should be a department that does the customer requests and the quote, maybe. And then together with other team members and departments, you do the assessment phase and so on. But replace yourself where you're not actually needed in. And if you want to scale this, of course, when you're a small company, you're starting out, you're the expert, you can do this all end to end, then it's possible. But as soon you grow, and this was a company size of 9 people right now, but now they're scaling 9 people. This is not all he's doing. He's doing now human resources as well, managing, nurturing the people in the company and say, then they get sick and he has to replace them as well. All these things come together the more people you have in a company. And to me, I had the same experience when I was working in big corporate. I was sitting in project meetings where I just replaced somebody who left the company. He was working there 15 years at his company, supporting the projects. And I came into this project meeting and they said, okay, this guy is gone now, so you are replacing him. So you will do now this, and you will do this, and you will do this, and you will do this. And I said, I don't think that I will do this and this and this. And I said, how? You just replaced him. And I said, I think something went wrong here. Because this guy was just doing it because nobody else was either able to do or there was nobody aware that they should do it. And this was the moment when I sat down and I actually made exactly this layout. And I said, look, this is where I understand the different departments involved in this. And I'm working in this department and it's okay, I can do this. But then we need to define this because I'm paid officially to do this already. And you want to put this on top of me, which is not actually part of my job description. So we need to define this. And this is the way how you can avoid becoming overwhelmed, to burn out, to be the serve them all person. Everybody comes to you, can you do this? You will do more and more the yes sayer, right? So this gives you an easy way to say no and provide a solution by understanding the underlying workflow, work structure, and then provide the solutions and not do finger pointing or something like this, but sit down and ask the question, okay, who of us could do this better than I could do this ever? It takes maybe just a few minutes for a person in this department and several hours for myself going and finding, now to close the loop, finding the information that I need to do this, whereas the information is already available in different departments. Once we have this fundamental understanding of a work stream, we can scale this up, we can use it in so many different life situations. And this is why I think Module 2 is very essential for you to go through and to understand this. But we haven't finished yet. I want to show you a different example that actually will involve already tools. ICOR is tool agnostic, but it doesn't mean that I cannot show you examples of tools and how we can optimize our tool setup. So this will be now our next example. So the next example is a work stream of sales, actually sales of a SaaS company. So in this, again, it's picked from a one-on-one client. I learned that he is actually getting passive inbound calls from the sales department, and this way he gets an appointment with a lead. At the same time, he does active outbound calls, and then he does the qualification. Is this lead really able to pay for this tool, for example, or are they really interested for this? They do some research, and then they make the discovery call, so they're really prepared for this call. Then after the discovery call, they can book a demonstration call where they show software, and then they send out a quote, because that's an enterprise platform. It's not you sign up and pay subscription. It's a done for you service, and it's specifically set up for the different companies there. And then they get access to the software. This is the simple process of the sales process. So the thing is, everything is tracked or should be tracked in Salesforce. So the customer relationship management, CRM, is Salesforce, and this is the business knowledge base. And I know this from so many companies. Salesforce is known for so many people, like SAP as well, all these database platforms. They are so powerful, but the issue really is that they are not set up with work streams in mind. So there was never done the work that we just do here right now to understand the different steps. So we could actually recreate these steps inside our CRM and fill out the fields easily related to the steps in our work stream. And this again, if you're a team member, in this case, he was a team member, he's not the owner of the company, but once he understands this process, the work stream, he can go to his boss and propose something how to optimize the Salesforce setup. But this was not the real struggle. The real struggle was that he was using a handwriting note-taking app to make notes during the discovery call. And you could now also say a paper notebook could be also the same thing. And here we have personal note-taking during meetings, and then we have the CRM, the business part of this work stream. So the question was how he could actually get this done inside Salesforce or get something that creates this already in Salesforce and so on. And I always want to keep it simple first. Always use what you already have in place and see how you can make it work, and then you start optimizing. And I think this is a great example where many of you will be able to relate to this, what I will show you now. So I defined it in a different way. The Apple Notes note-taking app is an intermediate note-taking tool. To me as well, I'm using Apple Notes as well, and to me I defined it as an intermediate note-taking tool. This just means I just use it for temporary notes, for sketches, for drawing something quickly, to write down a phone number, something like this. Something that I don't expect to find later on inside Apple Notes. I would be able to look it up in Apple Notes, but I don't expect it to be my single source of truth. My definition of a single source of truth is different. It's a different place. For example, Notion or Evernote could be different places. But this means when I defined Apple Notes as an intermediate note-taking tool, that I need to have a process in place to refine my notes into the single source of truth. So let's say the final destination in my case would be the Notion or Obsidian or something like this. Then I would need to process the notes that I have taken on the Apple Notes and bring it into the final destination, Obsidian, Notion, and so on. This gives me peace of mind that everything, when I come to the point that I need to look something up, I will always go to the final destination, never to the temporary destination. If I don't find it in the final destination and I have to look it up in the intermediate note-taking tool, then I made a bad job with the processing. So you could now also say this takes a lot of time. I had another client, he was taking notes the whole day in a handwriting note-taking app and then took away 1 hour per day just to process the handwritten notes into the different systems. And this is where I recommended why he just not opens the systems themselves and take the notes directly into the system. Then he skips this process in between, right? This was an eye-opener for this person as well, and he's doing it this way now because he saves so much time every day by just putting the information to the place where they need to be. However, this is a very good example as a salesperson. You sitting in a discovery call, you don't want to sit on your laptop and type away and the person just thinks, who is he writing to? Is he on a chat or is he on Facebook or whatever? You want to sit there and actually look in the eyes, even on a virtual meeting, and then you want to take handwritten notes. This is just a different way of communication. And this makes, again, sense to take notes. Another thing is that you have much quicker access to tools like Apple Notes. You just tap on your iPad, you can start writing your notes, and you can have a piece of paper. You can just start writing without doing anything with Notion or anything like this. And somebody catches you on the floor and want to tell you something, you take out your iPhone, open up Notion, go to the different pages, and then find the destination where you write this in. I think this person will just already moved on, being annoyed that you're just not listening to him or looking at your phone all the time. So these are really situations where it would make sense to have an intermediate note-taking tool. And this is exactly what we had here. So we defined the process of refining notes. he takes a lot more notes that he probably needs in Salesforce. So he can do this in Apple Notes. He can also then define Apple Notes as his personal knowledge management system for the notes that he does take. This would be possible as well. But then refine the notes, and only the contents, the essence of the notes, the meeting notes, go into Salesforce. And the personal note, where he had his own revelations maybe, stay in his personal note-taking app. So once we understood this, that we have two different systems, and we have a final destination, a single source of truth, that we need to feed with information so the company knows what you're actually doing in your sales calls, it was pretty easy to say then, okay, you can use Apple Notes in all these different calls, but you need to get the information that is needed for Salesforce into Salesforce later on. And then is the question, how? This is pretty straightforward. In Apple Notes, you just have the 3 steps. You select your handwritten notes, you convert it as handwritten text, which is copy, and then you paste it into Salesforce, into the text field, because Salesforce can be opened on the iPad as well. So this was pretty straightforward. But then, again, looking at to refine in ICOR, we could already say how we could refine it. So you see, I replaced Apple Notes here already with GoodNotes. This was just a suggestion because I just knew GoodNotes. We just need to select the handwritten notes and then drag and drop it into the different text field, for example in Salesforce. And while you drag and drop it, it will convert it on the fly and it will provide you the converted text. So there's no selection, copy, paste. This is a minor thing. And I just wanted to put it here as an example that you always be able to optimize something, but it is always easier to optimize stuff when you understand what is actually going on. That gives you friction. Just because you feel overwhelmed or you're just not getting things done as others expect you to get it done doesn't mean that you have the wrong tools or anything like this in place. And I really hope that this module gave you already a great understanding how you could lay out your own work streams, how to understand your processes. And if you want to lay it out as I have it here, the boxes that we have here and so on, how I created this, I used Miro, the whiteboard app, and you also have access to the Miro course. So feel free to watch the Miro course. I show you how I do whiteboarding and you can lay out this. But this being said, you can just use a piece of paper and draw it down there. It might be much quicker for you to create this work stream and then convert it into a digital system. Maybe you need it later on. But right now, to just get started, use a piece of paper and lay it out there. You don't need to learn a new tool like Miro in order to get started. That's really important. We want to get you up to speed in no time. And this is only by using your existing system and now do the different steps that are needed that pushes you forward instead of just looking at the next shiny object like Miro and start with this. And also the tools that I mentioned. Ignore them. There are ideas that we can talk about inside the community in our one-on-one calls. What could work for your system? But for now, understand your system and then let us know in the community. Thanks for watching and I'll catch you up in Module 3.